What is up, Edison Duelists? This is Dionysus, aka Young Puds, coming at you guys today with our regularly scheduled, shameless, hype beast, Gigavise content. Before we jump into it, we normally do this at the end of the video, but I am going to ask you guys to subscribe if you haven't already. We are so close to hitting our goal of 1,000 subscribers, and you, yes, you have the power to make that goal a reality. We have a lot of big, exciting things coming up on the channel. We also have our regularly scheduled daily shameless hypebeast Gigavise content, so it is in your best interest to subscribe. Now, let's get into today's video. The topic we are kind of thinking about today is going to be Black Wings. This deck, I don't know what it is about this deck, but it just seems to have such a propensity to be piloted by salty duelists. Maybe they hear that Black Wings is the best deck in Edison, that it's the easiest deck in Edison, so they're just expecting to earn a free win. Maybe they believe that Gigavise is going to brick, but folks, I gotta tell you, when Gigavise bricks, it is devastating, it is awful, but I'm not so sure that Gigavise bricks any more than any other deck. So sit back, relax, enjoy these replays. Let's see how we go. First, we are opening very strong here. We have drawn a copy plant for turn. We're going first. We are just going to do the very standard line with Foolish, Super Solar, and Copy Plant. Take notes if you haven't seen this line before. We also had access to this with the fertilizer before we drew the Copy Plant, but drawing the Copy Plant here is actually very good. We're going to Foolish for Dandy, and then Super Solar, one of the tokens, into Lone Fire. We're going to do 2 Lone Fires here in case we end up missing a power tool later on, but mostly because we do have the fertilizer. So I'm not so concerned about having one of the only 2 SSNs left in deck be live. We're going to do our first power tool dragon with the Copy Plant and the token. Copy Plant becomes level 6, copying Gigaplant's level. And then we are going to go right ahead and just go for a Titanial. You could try and extend a little further here. I don't think that's necessary. I think it's totally fine. We'll just have this nice strong board and then pass. Unfortunately for us, our opponent does draw one of the best answers to the Gigavise end board, assuming I don't have back row, and that is Shura, discard Kalut, get over the Gigaplant to knock that Supervise off, and then our opponent can just go ahead and Black Rose Dragon, duking the field. Feels bad for us. They are going to set 3 cards. We are going to draw. I'm going to go ahead and Heavy Storm here. I don't think our opponent's going to have a Starlight Road. That just that doesn't seem right. And of course, I am correct. Our opponent is just going to flip those 2 draw traps, and the Heavy Storm is going to effectively be trading 1 for 1 with the Bottomless Trap Hole. Perfectly fine by us. We have not 1 but 2 fertilizers, so we're just going to go ahead and fire both of those and swing in for big damage. Now, our opponent definitely has some valid crackback here. All he has to do is just summon out that Blizzy, and then he will be able to make a Goyo. And the Goyo is going to very cleanly answer the Gigaplant, as well as one of the fertilizers. We still have a Titanial and a fertilizer, so we're not out of this game by any means. Lots of draws could get us back into it. So let's see what we're able to pull off. Hidden Armory, that is going to be a fantastic draw. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to fertilizer or Gigaplant right away because 1 Gigaplant is right there. The other one's in our hand. But instead, after thinking for a little bit, what we are going to be able to do, we're going to fire the Hidden Armory first to get a Mark of the Rose, and then we are going to Mark the Rose to try and take our opponent's Goyo Guardian, and they are going to hit us with the MST for that. Totally fine. We wanted to use the Mark of the Rose first in case they had interruption. I didn't want to commit to the Miracle Fertilizer. So instead here we are just going to go ahead and decide to use the fertilizer to bring back a Dandelion, just to have a little defense, shut down any targeting options our opponent might have, and preserve the Titanial. And then we are going to attack over the Gigaplant and pass our turn. Opponent's going to draw Gores for turn and swing over our Dandelion. That is going to cost us the fertilizer. And our opponent is actually, interestingly here, going to decide to take the Dandelion off of Goyo. Not so sure about that, not going to lie to you folks. We are going to draw a trap dust shoot for turn. Both of us are stuck with a dead dust shoot. Dust shoot really stinks to draw late game like this. You know, this is definitely one of the downsides. Main phase 2, we're going to tribute summon the Gigaplant, set the dust shoot, see what we can do here. And our opponent, unfortunately for us, is going to draw into that value that is going to make that Icarus attack live. Feels bad for us. Wouldn't be so live if we hadn't set the dust shoot, but what are you going to do, folks? We do draw into a DDR. That is all right. We don't have anything super great to bring back from that lone fire. Most of our plants have already been used. All that's left in deck is a Nettles and a Dandelion. We are going to try to go right for main phase, but our opponent's going to stop us, think on standby phase, and go ahead and fire Icarus before we can do anything with Gigaplant. Definitely correct on our opponent's part there, and we are just going to be passing back to them. Our opponent is going to draw Shura, start putting some pressure on us. We are going to go ahead and draw, I believe, Mirror Force for turn. We're going to set the Mirror Force. It's going to keep us alive. It's going to keep us in the game. They draw a Brain Control, very, very powerful card, and we are going to fire the Mirror Force, clear away the Shura. We need that board presence gone ASAP. We're going to draw Nettles here. I'm thinking, okay, like this is something we could maybe synchro summon with Nettles and the Lone Fire, but we need to just be establishing board presence. We need to get the Dandelion out of the way, and we need our opponent to not have an answer to Nettles. So it's a little risky, but sometimes you have to take the risky lines just to find your way to victory. Our opponent is going to draw a Black Whirlwind. That is going to be no help, so they're going to pass back to us. We are going to draw a Gold Sark. That feels a little slow, so I am going to be comfortable discarding it for our Lone Fire Blossom, and then Lone Fire is going to tribute one of the tokens, and we are going to go ahead and get a Dandelion. So here I am going to punch in for 300. And then 500, our opponent is going to drop the Gores after the 300. So we'll be able to clear the token, but we're not going to be able to answer the Gores. Definitely unfortunate for us. What we are going to be able to do is just synchro summon 8 and try and put up a nice big wall with our Colossal Fighter here. That Brain Control is definitely going to be threatening, but we are we're in trouble. Our opponent does have a Vayu, so all they have to do is find, oh, look at that, a Sirocco to get into graveyard. If we had made Thought Ruler here, Thought Ruler would just be able to crash with Gores, and that doesn't seem good. So I'm thinking Colossal Fighter, okay, this is just going to keep us alive a little bit. It's going to be a little more difficult for him to out. He is going to go ahead and Sirocco for Blizzard here. Blizzard just to find a little more damage potentially. Sirocco, he also wants to get into the graveyard, so Vayu can be live. So good play on our opponent's part. He'll clear one token and then pass it back to us. We draw a Super Solar Nutrient, which is going to be no help. We have literally no monsters left in deck, so we are just going to be forced to attack over the Colossal Fighter, or the Sirocco with our Colossal Fighter. We have our opponent pretty low, so I'm thinking, hey, maybe we're just going to be able to pull it out. Maybe they just draw bottomless and they don't have anything to really answer our threats here. Unfortunately for us, our opponent is going to Blizzard and Vayu to get those 2 Armed Wings on the field, and then be able to Brain Control for game. That is going to be game on the spot, because 1 Armed Wing does not have its effect negated, so it'll deal 2,800 over a token, and then the Armed Wing with the negated effect clears the second token, and Colossal Fighter attacks for game. So definitely an intense game. We opened combo, but it wasn't enough. So here our opponent, we see, has definitely sided in, and they have made some questionable side decking decisions. DD, Warrior Lady, and Soul Release. I gotta say, folks, I am not so sure that these are great cards to side in against Gigavise. Meanwhile, we are going to be going ahead and opening combo. So we are just going to make a Power Tool Dragon here. Trap, Dust Shoot, and Judgment I'm perfectly fine missing. On the impossible chance that I do miss, there's just no way I could. Well, I guess I did miss. So we're going to upstart, get that Fertilizer. That's a great crackback draw. We're going to Dust Shoot, putting back the Warrior Lady, and then we do have perfect knowledge of our opponent's hand. We know they have the Dust Shoot. We know they have the Mirror Force. We can assume they are setting Shura to make Blizzard live. They're going to fire the Dust Shoot right away, putting that Gigaplant back in deck. I don't care. If anything, it might be better for us. We're going to switch Power Tool to attack and use its effect. This time, we are going to see what we can get, and once again we miss, so we are just going to normal summon the Gigaplant, get a Nettles back, and then make a Stardust to play around the mirror force. I want to use the judgment to stop whatever synchro monster he's going to try and make here. And of course, we are able to do that. We are going to get hit with Soul Release, which is going to turn our DDR on for us, which is just fantastic. I swear, like, that's the biggest problem with Soul Release. 9 times out of 10, when my opponent activates Soul Release, they're turning on a DDR and they're letting me win. The same thing kind of happens with Kaiko the Ghost Destroyer. It's going to turn on your DDR and then you're going to be able to win. So super, super good for us. And then we do draw a Supervise right off the top, which is fantastic because our opponent did put that second Gigaplant back in our deck. We're going to fire the Power Tool Dragon, get one last activation out of it. Can't say no to free advantage. We're going to see a Mark of the Rose, and then we are going to DDR, and our opponent is going to Royal Oppression here. We are going to be able to negate the oppression, in this case with Stardust Dragon. Stardust Dragon can't always negate oppression. In this case, oppression is trying to negate the effect, not the activation of DDR. So DDR is already on the field, so it is trying to destroy a card on the field. So Stardust is in fact able to negate it. And with that, our opponent is going to realize that he has lost, and that is going to be it for us. So we are going to go on into game 3. And here our opponent is, of course, going first. We have sided in our freeze, our twister, all that kind of stuff. Don't draw any of it. Our opponent opens just fine. Seeing Dust Shoot again must make him feel pretty good. But what doesn't make him feel good is seeing my hand with 1, no monsters, and 2, full combo once again. And just like that, our opponent is going to quit the game. And that's going to be that. I think it is pretty clear that we have won this match here, folks. Just Gold Sark, probably discard the Upstart Goblin. Hit an Armory for Supervise. We can Giant Trunade to really pack the field full of bodies. We can Lightning Vortex. We could probably find a Mark of the Rose. So I think it is pretty certain that we are winning the game that turn. So that is the first match, and this is what I'm talking about. This kind of behavior where you're just scooping instantly. This is just classic salty bird players. So let's jump into another match here. This is against a very high-rated duelist, Pirashud, Pirashud. Not sure how we prefer to pronounce it, but nevertheless, something in like the mid 1200 rating. So definitely a competent duelist. These matches, I think, are really, really cool. So our opponent is going to open up with Boraset 2. We've got the Heavy Storm for that, and then we are going to go ahead and DDR to find our way into a Fire Blossom with some tokens up. Here I'm thinking, all right, this is going to be fantastic. We have full combo here because the first Lone Fire that we have special summoned is going to get us Gigaplant. The second Lone Fire is going to get us to Copy Plant. And then we are going to go copy Giga and make a Power Tool with the other token. I have that extra Lone Fire on field for damage because just a little extra push here. We're going to Supervise for Gigaplant, and then here we are going to go ahead and make another Power Tool Dragon. Supervise is going to bring back the Gigaplant, and then Power Tool is going to activate. We are going to reveal a Supervise and 2 Mark the Rose. I would definitely prefer to hit the Mark here. That's just a little bit cleaner. Instead, we do hit the Supervise. Sometimes you miss, but never going to complain about seeing Supervise. Here, I'm going to go ahead and Copy Plant. A couple options here, but I think the line that's going to play through the most devastating thing is going to be going for Brio, just to bounce the Bora out of the way. I could have made like Armory Arm, but I had the read that my opponent didn't have Gores setting 2 like that, and I was most concerned about getting blown out by like double Kalut. So that's going to be it for game 1, and we're going to go right into game 2. Let's see how we handle our opponent here. And now, of course, we're going second, so we have sided in our decrees. Always happy to see it. And then here, our opponent is going to start with Dark Grepher, so it looks like they're kind of on a bit of a hybrid Blackwing list. And now, folks, this is maybe the biggest thing that I see when I'm watching my replays is my opponents, they're going first, they draw the Fossil Dyna, and then they don't use it. Guys, you put the Fossil Dyna on the field. Normal summon it. Like, of course, I'm siding outs for it, but like here, like we're in a fantastic position. We're gonna upstart. What do we draw? We draw Lone Fire. So now we're threatening full combo here right away. And we would have nothing to do if our opponent had just normal summoned the fossil dino. So like if you're watching these videos trying to figure out how to beat Gigavise, like take notes. Just summon the fossil dino, dog. Like I know that our opponent was thinking, okay, I'm gonna try and get my combo online. I'm gonna set up my graveyard. This feels good, but my deck is better than yours. Right? It's just better than yours. If you can stop me from playing, then you can go ahead and try and play the game. But if you're trying to play the game and thinking, okay, maybe I'll get a turn, like look at this, folks. Like our opponent is not getting a turn. This combo here also, I've gone over it in videos in the past. It is in the combo guide, but this is the classic Mark of the Rose plus DDR plus Lone Fire Blossom into an opponent's level 4 monster, where we used Copyplant to copy the Lone Fire Blossom that we brought back with DDR to make Power Tool for a guaranteed supervised search. And then now we're going to use that Lone Fire that we summoned back off the DDR for Gigaplant. This is a really good line to know. It actually does come up a whole lot. It's just a really convenient way to win the game. And speaking of winning the game, all we have to do here is hit that 2/3 roll, and then we are going to be able to find that second supervise, make a titanial, and that is going to be it for our opponent. Unfortunately, we do hit the Mark of the Rose. We are going to have to settle with just 7,000 points of damage and setting a decree. So definitely not ideal, but having that set decree is going to kind of keep us in the game a little bit. Here, our opponent is going to draw a Royal Oppression. Fantastic draw, really. Our opponent is going to go ahead and use that Vio he did set up to get Armed Ring on the field, so he at least gets some value out of the Greffer. It's going to check to see what my back row is with this very nice low committal kind of play, and then just use his Colute to get over the Gigaplant. Really nice getting that off the field, and then he is going to set Oppression and set the Fossil Dino. So it is going to be our turn now. We're going to fire the Decree in end phase just to keep that back row out of play. We're going to draw an MST. That's going to be great if our opponent does turn off the Decree. It's going to be a fantastic way to clear that Oppression. We're going to use the first Power Tool Dragon, and we do hit a Supervise. And unfortunately here, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we are only having 2 equips left in deck. So we're going to be forced to be in kind of a bad position. We're just going to have to crash to clear the Armed Wing, and then we are going to attack over what I was pretty sure is a Fossil Dino, but I just needed it gone. I can't have my opponent flip summoning it. That would be much worse for us. So we are going to have to take that, and then we have our opponent very, very low here. They're going to summon the Bora and punch in for 1,700. We are going to draw the Lightning Vortex, and I am going to decide here, all right, let's just try and get damage in. This is going to get our opponent really close to death. This is going to be fantastic. Now we're just going to, give him back the Bora, but lots of cards we could draw to stay in the game. Lots of options here. Our opponent's going to tribute summon the Sirocco, and they are going to punch in for 2,000, getting the Mark of the Rose out of the way. Of course, if we'd held the Mark of the Rose, they wouldn't. They probably wouldn't be summoning the Shura at this point, anyways. So totally fine. We're going to Lightning Vortex here. Doesn't feel the best, but that SSN is definitely dead, and that Sirocco is going to be a big problem. So we're going to set the MST and then pass it back to our opponent. They are going to draw a Vayu for turn, which they are just going to use to swing at us. Totally fine. All we have to do is find our way to one of the 2 hidden armories in deck, one of the 3 miracle fertilizers in deck. Even a DDR would bring back Gigaplant for game, so lots of cards we can draw. We do miss, unfortunately, hitting that Book of Moon. Our opponent's going to draw a DT. That is going to be no help. They're going to hit us for 800. Now we have a very close game on our hands, and we're going to draw another Royal Decree. Not helpful at all, not what we want to see, especially when our opponent does find their way into Card Trooper. We're going to Book of Moon the Card Trooper to protect our life points, but we still are going to take 800 more. So now it comes down to this last draw, and it is Book of Moon once again, which is not going to be enough to stop our opponent, and we're going to be forced to proceed into game number 3. What are we going to do here? I do side out a lot of the side cards. See, we have our Geki Breaks back in. That is going to be very, very useful for us. We're going to start things off with an upstart, and we do find that Supervise. Sometimes you just draw the good cards. What can I say, folks? We're going to Lone Fire into Gigaplant. Definitely feeling confident going into a Power Tool Dragon here with that Mark of the Rose in hand. So we are going to go ahead and do just that. Of course, our opponent is going to DD Crow to stop our combo in its tracks, and we're going to Power Tool for 2 DDR and a Supervise. 66 does round up, and we get the Supervise. Here, our opponent is going to fire the Allure of Darkness, drawing into another Royal Oppression, and a Heavy Storm, so we're going to get no value off of the Raigeki Break discard Dandelion, but honestly, just trading 1 for 1, that's fine too. Trying to get the game state nice and simplified. Our opponent is going to set 2, set the Royal Oppression, set the Solemn Judgment. Feels pretty strong. No reason to develop the Sirocco when they don't have a way to protect it. We're going to draw an Upstart, which we will fire, and we do find a Super Solar Nutrient. Not the best thing for us to see here, especially when our opponent has a Royal Oppression. So they're going to stop our Fertilizer. We're going to fire the Power Tool effect, see if we can get another equip, get a little more value out of it. That is going to be, what, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we still do have one of each equip left in deck. So Power Tool survives. We will get a few more turns. I don't want to risk attacking into Mirror Force. I'm liking this strong board presence. Our opponent is running pretty low on cards. They don't have a ton going on, so seems good to me. Here our opponent is going to set and pass. We're going to draw another Supervise. So Power Tool is going to be offline, but the upside of that is we are in a very good position to come back and win the game. All we have to do is turn off the oppression. So we are going to swing over the value and pass it back to our opponent. They are going to draw a Burial from the different dimension. Could be really good. It could turn on the value immediately in a pinch, or it could be even bigger combo here if we do run over this Sirocco. We're going to draw Gold Sark here. I am going to go ahead and Gold Sark a Giant Trunade. Seems pretty good to me, and we are not going to attack over that set. It just, you know, I'm feeling that, you know, it's probably not a Fossil Dyna at this point, and I don't want to feed the value and just give him a free activation. Our opponent is going to draw a DT for turn, and they are going to set it into this Trunade that we've revealed. We are going to go ahead and set the Dandelion for hand size, and then pass it back to our opponent. Definitely should have pumped that Power Tool into defense there. Here, our opponent is going to draw DD Warrior Lady. Once again, these bird decks are siding in DD Warrior Lady, but I'm really not convinced that this is a great card to be siding. What can I say, folks? We're going to get the Giant Trunade to hand, and I am thinking, all right, off to the races. Time to win this game. Our opponent does have the Solemn Judgment. What can you do here, folks? We are going to swing into the new set, and we do find that it's a DD Warrior Lady, so that's going to remove the Power Tool Dragon, but ultimately not the end of the world for us. We're going to set the Hidden Armory for hand size. Probably should have set the Super Solar Nutrient here. What are you going to do? Our opponent is going to drop the Dust Tornado, and then they are going to draw Black Whirlwind for turn. They are just going to pass it back. They're going to continue preserving this set, not confirming our suspicions that it's a Sirocco. And here we are going to draw just the perfect draw. It's going to be an MST. I guess they wanted to play around Heavy Storm and not be losing both of their oppressions, but I don't know, folks. I don't know. Like, if I have Heavy Storm, you lose, even if it's just the one oppression. If there's an MST or a Twister or something like that, I think you probably do want to set both oppressions here. But nevertheless, we are just going to go ahead and Gigaplant, give it Supervise, bring back Copy Plant, and make a Brio. That's going to clear that set just on the off chance that it's an MJ2 and not a Sirocco, and that is going to be it for the game. So our opponent does have a shot at redemption. We did run into the very same opponent the other day on the ladder. So we have a second duel against the same opponent. Are they going to be able to find a win this time? We're going to start things off with a Hidden Armory into a Supervise. Always fantastic to see, as well as the Hidden Armory into DDR. You always want to get DDR off the first Hidden Armory and Supervise off the second, because it is more likely that you Supervise than DDR. Makes sense, folks? So we are going to Gold Sark to get the Lone Fire in the mix. We are going to discard the Raigeki Break. These two cards are going to be much better to keep, not having discard costs. And then we are going to Lone Fire into Gigaplant, give it Supervise, and then make a Power Tool Dragon. And then Power Tool Dragon is going to hit the 2/3 for us. Right, of course it does. and then we'll get a Titanial up, and then have a very well protected board setting the Dust Shoot and the Judgment. Here we're going to Dust Shoot, and we see our opponent's hand. Definitely Sirocco is going to be the clear choice to put back. And then we know that the rest of their hand is going to be Heavy Storm, Icarus, Allure, Burial, and Aura. So, with perfect knowledge of our opponent's hand, we're going to be able to put it to work. Our opponent is actually going to fire the Allure first. And since we have perfect knowledge of our hand, we are going to Solemn Judgment the Allure. I'm very happy to get a use out of the Solemn Judgment so that the Heavy Storm does not just clear it away. Our opponent is going to heavy, clearing the Supervise. That's totally fine with us, and then he's going to set 2 cards. I can be very confident that that is the Bora and the Icarus attack. Our opponent is going to Icarus attack on standby phase, targeting our 2 non-Gigaplant monsters, but of course we're going to Tribute Titan. Deal with them. Here we're going to fire the Power Tool Dragon, revealing 2 marks and a Supervise. I'm happy with what I get, and we do hit the mark. Totally fine, folks. We're just going to normal summon the Supervise, or the Gigaplant rather, and bring back Titanial and punch in for a bunch of damage. Our opponent is going to go ahead and scoop it up. That Burial is dead, so they are not in a good spot. Here we go. What do we have here for game 2? After a little bit of side decking action from both of us, here our opponent does have Fossil Dyna, and we have Dandelion with the Super Solar. That feels pretty good. We have a Lone Fire, always happy to see that, and then of course the Hidden Armor as well. And then once again, folks, our opponent is not summoning the Fossil Dyna first, and I gotta say, you know, the last time this happened, our opponent did end up winning that game. So, you know, maybe you could say, oh, well, you're wrong about that, Young Pudge, you're wrong about that, Dionysus. But here, like, look at this, you know, we're not, okay. Well, now we draw the Book of Moon. So we have the out, even if they do normal summon the Fossil Dyna. And maybe the Necrogarda could be seen as more helpful. But I still got to say here, folks, like, you want to summon the Dyna. That seems best to me. But what do I know? Really, what do I know? Setting the Book of Moon here, I gotta say that's a little suspect. A little greedy, even, say. But opponent is going to draw a Gale for turn, and then speaking of greed, they are once again not going to normal summon the Fossil Dyna. I guess they're testing for Mirror Force here, and they are going to see that we do not, in fact, Mirror Force. We are going to draw for turn, and we draw our second Book of Moon. So never punished, even if that first one didn't hit. We're all set to go off, so we are going to go ahead and Trunade, clear that back row out of the way. And then we are going to Lone Fire for the second Lone Fire for a Gigaplant, at which point we will equip Gigaplant with the Supervise, bring back the Lone Fire Blossom. And here we are just trying to extend fully. I want to get a Rose at some point to clear the Shura out of the way. And let's see if we can manage to do that. Here we're going to Power Tool once again, revealing 2 Supervise and a Mark of the Rose. We do hit the Supervise, so we are going to go ahead, and at this point now, we are just going to Gigaplant for Titanial, put up a nice strong board. I'm going to play around Kalut, so we are going to put the Shura face down and then swing over our opponent's board and swing in for 800 big old points of damage. So we've got our opponent's life points nice and low. We're going to set that Book of Moon as well, as it is fantastic protection against maybe another Shura, something like that. Our opponent is going to choose to normal summon the Blizzard, and then they are going to special summon the Gale, so they are threatening all sorts of synchro plays, but we can turn all of those options off with just a simple Book of Moon on the Shura. They're going to try and use Gale's effect, but we are going to negate it with Titanial. That is going to get us Gigaplant back from Supervise. And here our opponent is going to go ahead and choose to use Kalut to remove the Gigaplant. So definitely defensible play. It's going to make that Mirror Force all that much stronger. It does kind of tell me that, all right, I think our opponent might have Mirror Force here. So we're going to use Power Tool Dragon first, see if we can dig up something good here. At this point, you know, not absolutely needing either option, but just trying to see what we can get. And then I am going to go ahead and choose to use Foolish Burial to give Titanial some stuff, tribute to negate, do that. And then I am thinking it's a Mirror Force, potentially, so I'm going to choose to put the Power Tool into defense mode. and we're going to swing over the Blizzard, get that tuner off the field. Our opponent does have Mirror Force, so definitely unfortunate for us. And then they are going to go ahead and draw a Dark Armed Dragon. Too many Darks are already in their graveyard, so maybe we have a little bit of a shot here. Opponent's definitely going to take some time to think. They've got a lot of options here. They are just going to go ahead and decide to make a Ryanak. Definitely defensible. They're going to discard the Vayu. I think they've kind of just decided, all right, this dad is not getting live this game. The Bryo is going to do a fine job of clearing not just one of our tokens, but the Power Tool Dragon as well. And then they are going to slap a Fossil Dyna right down onto the field. Gotta say, folks, I don't know how much I like this play. If we had gotten a Mark of the Rose, that would be really, really strong for us. What we do instead have is going to be a Lightning Vortex, so that'll answer both Fossil Dyna as well as the Bryanak. Our opponent's going to set a Solemn Judgment and then pass it back to us. We have our very cozy feeling with these 2 tokens up, but not so cozy because, of course, it's Black Wings. Very easy that our opponent top decks turn into an Armed Wing. Our opponent is going to draw Sirocco and just pass here. Very interesting. Maybe seeing if we're going to develop something else. Maybe seeing if they can find something a little bit stronger. They do draw a DD Crow, so a little more defense, and then they're going to pass it back once again. Here, I am going to decide, all right, this is my time. I'm going to summon the Gigaplant. Our opponent elects to not use the Solemn Judgment here. Not so sure about that one. I guess they're maybe waiting for a synchro play. Maybe they're going to Solemn Judgment and Whip. Maybe they think that, you know, just a Gigaplant on its own isn't anything. They can handle it. In main phase 2, we are going to use our Super Solar Nutrient to get out a Nettles. And then we are going to go ahead and make a Black Brute Drago. Even if our opponent has Bottomless or something like that, we have the DDR ready to go. Of course, Black Brute Drago is fantastic into Solemn Judgment. It cannot be stopped. So we are going to pass to our opponent feeling pretty safe and secure. Black Brute Drago is just so strong in the late game. And then here our opponent is going to draw and set a Bottomless Trap Hole and then pass it back to us. A little risky on their part. If we had another summon, maybe a Fertilizer or something, that would be able to be game, but instead we are just going to swing for 1,000. They will Necrogardener to preserve their life points, and then they are going to draw into a DD Warrior Lady. So I know I've been trashing DD Warrior Lady this whole video, really, but here it is going to be relevant. It's going to be a clean out to Black Brute Drago. So we are going to try and Black Brute Drago and get it banished. In phase 2, we want to have continued established field presence, so we are going to DDR back the Drago, at which point, of course, our opponent is going to hit us with the bottom hole. We are going to Gold Sark for a second DDR. I don't want to have to waste time with an Armory or anything. I want DDR to my hand to bring back the Brute Drago, just to put our opponent on a big old block. They're going to draw a Brain Control for turn. That is going to be no help without any monsters on my side of the field. Here I draw a Gold Sark, and we are going to go ahead and fire it too. I am a little skeptical that it's going to get us anywhere. I'm going to banish the Supervise here. Now, I know this looks a little weird, but if you look at the cards that are remaining in my deck, there are very few. 3 of them are Miracle Fertilizer, so pretty likely that I would draw into one of those. And if I do draw into one of those, having the 1 Supervise left in my deck is going to be best. So that is going to be it for us. And then we are going to pass back to our opponent, hoping desperately that they are not able to come up with enough damage to kill us. Speaking of all sorts of deadly stuff, our opponent is going to summon the Card Trooper, and here all they had to do is mill a Sirocco, and that would be GG. Thankfully, they do miss, and they are going to hit us for 1,900, bringing us down to 300 life points. So a lot of times in both of these matches against Pirashud here, we're getting pretty low, all the way down to 300. We're going to top deck a Hidden Armory, however, for game and get that DDR back into our hands. And we are now going to go ahead and DDR to bring back the Black Brute Drago. Once again, not sure why our opponent doesn't Solemn Judgment here. Seems to me like that is just a a no-brainer here. Of course, if they had, we did have the Hidden Armory anyways, so it's not a big deal. but we are going to go ahead and mark pros and take Card Trooper. So big lessons to take away from this match: summon your Fossil Dyna first turn and use your judgment. Like I said, definitely correct here, especially this last turn, to use the judgment on the DDR. No reason not to. If the DDR sticks and Black Brute Drago summons, I just have to attack, and that's a whole bunch of damage. That's bad news. Maybe they thought I didn't have anything else, but so yeah, use your judgment, folks, and summon your Fossil Dynas turn 1. I think that's always just going to be better, just to try and lock your Gigavise opponents out of the game. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed these matches. I hope you found them instructive and enjoyable. This has been Dionysus, aka Young Puds. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with some more shameless hypebeast Gigavise content. All right, take care, everyone.